The Zelos Games are right around the corner, both virtually and in person in Las Vegas. And Jared Graybeal, the founder and event organizer, is here with me. Jared, how are you feeling? You've been traveling a lot, also trying to run a competition that's coming up.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I'm doing my best to get good sleep, good quality sleep, and my days are a lot longer lately because obviously with my other jobs and then putting on the Zelos games. But
Yeah, you
um,
wear a lot of hats.
I do wear a lot of hats, metaphorically and literally. But no, I feel good. It's like I'm running on excitement, right? Like putting on an event like this is more of a sprint than it is a marathon. In that,
Mm.
like the moment the game CrossFit Games is over, like I get to work on putting this together. So it's like I know I'm overworking right now, but I do know there's like an end in sight, right? Like there's a finish line. So it's a little easier to be exhausted in the short term, knowing that like this isn't my long. I won't do this year in and year out, like day in and day out forever. So really driven by excitement and a lot of the new changes that we've added to the competition.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of the changes, but this is only the second year and it's a hybrid model. So it's online, but it's also in person. When did those ideas start? Was it right away after year 1 you're like, "Okay, we need to like add people in person," or what were some of those thoughts and ideas that started to that come to mind?
It was pretty much like the seed of what has come to be what you'll see this year as the 2022 Zelos Games. The seeds were planted right after the first iteration ended. It was like I'm having calls with whatever athletes that did the online competition that are willing to chat, which a lot of them were, and a lot of them were really great, like feedback wise. And then I chatted with like people on the other end, like the audience and analysts. Like before Brian and I were really friends, like I chatted with him last year after the Zelos Games ended. He gave me a lot of fruitful feedback. Brian's very good at constructive criticism in the best sense of the word or the phrase. And so last year, I think, because the mission of the Zelos Games is two parts: to create more earning potential for athletes all over the world without requiring them to travel, and then it's to create more entertainment for fans. And last year we held these like live throwdowns, like of course, we had like Danielle, Carey, and Bethany do the first
Mhm.
workout announcement, and that got a lot of play on YouTube. People loved to watch it. It was a 4 minute workout though, and there wasn't like a live audience, but people loved the idea of it. And so, right after the last year's Zelos Games, it was like, how do we create a better entertainment element without potentially, because obviously, like it's a self-funded project. So it's like,
Yeah.
what can we afford to create live without like the robust community event? Because as much as I love community events, one, I think there's a lot of them that do a really great job, and two, I just didn't have the capacity to put on like another Wadapalooza. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mm.
200 volunteers, 400 athletes. Like there's just no way I would be able to do that. And so it was like, how do we double down on like the live throwdown element without overextending myself? And through some conversations, like the first idea was, what if we held these small, maybe 5 to 10 people at different camps, right? Like, what if we went to Training Think Tank, then we had Underdogs, and then Mayhem, and it was like, okay, well, that would mean it would have to be like a 4 or 5 week thing, and that's way too long. There's so many things going on in the off season, and so I narrowed it down to like 10 days online competition with one live element. And because I happen to live in Las Vegas now, which I moved out here, March 1st of this year, it's like, man, Las Vegas is a destination place. There's not a whole lot
Yeah.
of like competitions on the west side of the country. So what if we created like a destination event, an invitational? What if we did it after Rogue Invitational, sort of as like a second chance? Um, no offense, I think Vegas is probably more of a cool destination than Austin. So like there's a little bit more of that frill, like come see a show or whatever. And so that's kind of how it all evolved. And then it was like, well, how many people can I truly invite? Like how many people can I afford to invite out here?
Sure.
Because it's
Right,
really
because you're paying all of the athletes.
yeah, there's a small compensation package to help cover the travel and everything like that. Um,
But
and
that
so
you don't really see that at I mean, you see that at, like, the bigger competitions like Rogue Invitational that gives the travel stipends, but it is far and few between. Sorry to cut you off, but, like, how did you create into your budget that this was a necessity to include in your competition to pay the athletes?
um, well, I thought it would be almost antithetical to like ask all these people to come out here without providing some type of support, given that the mission of the Zelos Games is to create more earning opportunities for athletes all over the world without paying for travel, right? So like, um, now I take that with a grain of salt because like the compensation is in many cases probably covers their flight and maybe their hotel, but there are some cases where it probably doesn't cover 100%. But I did the best that I could, because at the same time, like many of these athletes have large influence. They're they got sponsors that are paying them far more to travel than I could. So I just tried to come up with a number that I thought was fair and realistic to attract 24 people to come out to Vegas. Um, Luckily, some of them are in Vegas already. Regardless of that, they're still getting compensation, but they're already in Vegas. So like the travel package wasn't as expensive per se as
Mhm.
some of the locals here. And then of course there's a couple people nearby, but still we've got like James Sprague coming from Florida or Nate Ackerman. I think he's also in Florida. I actually don't know where everybody is because in the off season athletes are all over the country just
Yeah.
having fun, training with friends. But so yeah, that's basically what I looked at is like sort of like what's the bulk number, like what's the max number, and then how do I reverse engineer that, and like what's the average offer I can give 24 athletes. That's basically how I did it. It's just kind of a math equation.
How did you go about seeking athletes? Because most of them are like some of them have been to the games, I think of like the Kelsey Keels, but most of them are those high level semifinal athletes. Is that who you were marketing towards, or what was the process like for you?
The first part of it was like, okay, who do I know from the games that like I know
Use
personally
your
that I can invite?
resources.
Yeah, like who can I invite from
Yeah.
the games that would probably come? And a couple people like sort of committed early on, but then realized, okay, I'm going to Rogue. Realistically, this is 2 years, 2 weeks after Rogue. And obviously, when you look at like my travel stipend compared to the potential to earn at Rogue, it's like it really like contrast is serious,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
like, the contrast is pretty upsetting there. So I basically was like, all right, outside of the top 20 at the games, then I can invite some people. And I looked at the people I knew. Alex Kazan is here. She
Mhm.
was at the game. She's an incredible person, incredible athlete. She's in Vegas. She's with the underdogs. And so, boom, like Alex Kazan was one of the first people I invited. So it's kind of the framework I looked at is like outside of the Rogue invites, who can I invite? And I basically went down the list of people I knew and shot them a text or a DM. Got a few no's, of course, because some people are focused on other things in the off season. Maybe they didn't want to travel, or my stipend wasn't, good enough to help them travel, vice versa, whatever. And then I looked at last chance qualifier. Who can I
Hmm.
invite from the last chance qualifier? Because it's kind of like that next level. And then I looked at semifinals and I kind of looked at top five, top 10. I guess more top 10 would be a better example because top five most likely went to the games. I wanted to have a diverse like showing here, like country wise, but it's obviously I can't really pay for people to come from Europe or Asia or whatever.
Sure.
So most of them are if not all of them are in states. And so that's kind of how I went down. And then, so sort of like, who do I know who went to the games? Who do I know that did last chance qualifier? Who do I know that did semifinals? And then if there's people that I didn't personally know, like who do I know that knows them? And then message them, email them, connect with them. And then I did want a couple like the Invictus crew. I love the Invictus team. I've I love that. I mean, they're great athletes, one, but I know them from just spending like a week in San Diego. We're not best friends or anything, but they're really great people and they're great competitors. They're high level, like I think elite individual competitors, and I've always wanted to see them compete like in an individual. So I was like, I'm gonna invite Jorge, I'll invite Brittany, and then I didn't know Devin or Josh, but got connected with them and invited them. Jorge's not coming though, for what that's worth. I
Mhm.
don't want to misspeak on the broadcast. But so yeah, and then Tola's connected, to the underdogs family here in Vegas and games athlete and fun competitor. So I was like, let me get connected with Tola and invite him. So that's kind of how I went about it and got really lucky. I mean, we have a really, really cool group of people coming out to throw down. It's going to be a great event.
So it's 12 men, 12 women. They will be there to do the same workouts that folks at home will be able to do online.
Yeah. So kind of imagine it like an open announcement on steroids. And what I mean, I guess that's probably a bad word, but
In the CrossFit space, I feel like it's a bad analogy, but it does make sense in my mind. I use that one
Yeah,
all the
okay,
time.
good. So, like, CrossFit announcement is the 3 Panchik brothers, right? And, like, we
Oh,
all
yeah.
tune in, we watch it, and then we all sign up because we forgot to sign up until now, right? But now we're excited to do it because we got to see it live. We're thinking about how am I gonna do it? Um, am I going to do it how Scott did it, or am I going to do it how Spencer did it? Whatever. So this is like that, but bigger, right? And so the online competition is from the 11th of November to the 21st of November, 10 days online, 4 workouts. The live event is on the 12th and the 13th. So it does kind of leak into that online time
Mhm.
frame. However, the first workout's not due until the 15th. So the idea is you have 5 days for the first workout, which is really like our last chance to build up some more global awareness around the competition for people that may not know. And then the online or the broadcast and the live event is like, oh shoot, this is awesome. I haven't signed up yet. I'm going to sign up now, and I still have 2-3 days left to do it. But it also creates a fair advantage, not advantage, but a fair opportunity for the live athletes that maybe they didn't do their best in the first workout, and they're like, "Wow, that's unfair,"
Mhm.
because now I don't have the same opportunity as all the online people. They still have 2 days after the event to go home and redo the first workout if they want to do it. They have 4 days to redo the second workout, 6 days to redo the third workout, and so on and so forth. So the live event, there is a small prize purse. I think first place gets like $1,000, and all the way down to maybe fifth gets a couple $100. To
And so
create an
that's
incentive,
separate than the elite payouts.
yeah, the elite payouts
Okay.
is a little over 30 grand for the online
Mhm.
competition. It goes from I think 4 grand for first place to about $100 for 10th place overall. Um, but the live event has a little bit attached to it as well because again, I want to incentivize a competition.
Yeah.
I want it to be fun for them. I want to be a podium at the end of the competition, but that's separate, right? So like the whole competition has about 35 grand that I've allocated towards the prize purse. About five of that is for the live event, and then 30 of it's for the online event. And then we have we have 8 age group divisions with an RX division as well.
So much
Right.
going on. Is
Yeah.
your brain, like, about to explode?
Kinda. But it's just fun. I mean, like I love a challenge. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, like to a fault. I mean, since I was a kid, I've been a multitasker and like doing multiple things at once, and which is kind of like fun because I feel like CrossFit is like the entrepreneurial approach to fitness, right? Like you're always
Yeah.
doing different thing. You never get bored with your fitness, so there's parallels there. Like as far as the methodology and the modality is concerned. But so yeah, I mean, I am a little overwhelmed, but again, at the end of the day, it's like this serves a purpose for me. I believe in the purpose, and there's a finish line, so it's easy to stay motivated. Whereas if this was like all culminating 3 years from now, then I'd be like, I don't know if I can withstand the pressure for 3 years, you know. But it is exciting, and like last year we didn't have age groups. I wanted to extend more opportunities for the age group population because the CrossFit Games sort of cut that in half, and that's not anything bad or good. Like they do what they need to do based on their numbers and their team and stuff like that. But it was like, oh, okay, this is an opportunity for me to like add more to those competitive demographics. And so we've
Mhm.
got the 2 teenage divisions, we've got six masters divisions, and then we have the RX division. And the way the elite division works this year is it's a pre-qualifier based on the quarterfinal score. So if you're top 500 in the
I
world,
love that.
yeah, because we
I love that.
thank you. Like once we landed on it, I loved it too. And so like, because I
Yeah,
was
how
going
did
to
you
do
come up with that number?
I started with top 1,000 in the open, but then
Okay.
after like chatting with a few people, mainly Kiefer, who's our the assistant head coach at Underdogs, but like
Yeah.
the head programmer for this event, we're like, okay, the open, you can get top 1,000 in the open and not necessarily be an elite level athlete because the open is primarily engine based,
Mhm.
um, with like lower skill movements. And so, like, not to discredit any, if you get top 1,000 in the open, you're far fitter than I am. Like, good on you. But
Yeah.
you may not be able to like. You probably didn't make it to semifinals if if
Sure.
you might
I
not
get
not
what you're saying.
might. All right, so I'm like,
Right.
uh,
Because you don't necessarily need to be strong or have, like, high
yeah.
skills to get
But
top 1,000 in
quarterfinals
the open. Yep.
does introduce ring muscle ups, pistols,
Mhm.
GHD, things like that. And so it's like, all right, 1,000 in quarterfinals is too broad. We narrowed it down to 500 in quarterfinals to be elite. We also referenced people's names and looked where they landed at semis or the
Sure.
games or versus the open and things like that. So top 500 in the quarterfinal, male and female, makes you eligible to compete in the elite division. This also helps us avoid like sandbagging because if you're like
Mhm.
100th in quarterfinals, you can't do the RX division and just crush it and win the prize purse. So it helps to separate that a little bit. And then 501 plus makes you eligible for the RX division. The RX division is basically RX versions of the same workouts. Still tough workout, still some high skill there, but not as high skill, not as tough. And then of course we have modified each workout to be more custom made for each division based on the expected competencies of those divisions. So of course I'm biased, but I think we've done a really really good job of creating a well-rounded 4 workout test for every age group. Um, and then the age groups, they don't get any cash, but we have like an $1,100 prize package for first place, $600 for second, $300 for third. And what that is, like for example, for first place, I mean, it's like Christmas for a CrossFitter. Like you get a Yeti
I
lunch
love it.
bag, a Go Ruck bag or Go Ruck. You get Paleo Power Meals free week. You're going to get a pair of Reebok X1s, toe spacer kit. You're going to get a pair of daughter headphones, which are dope. I actually use those all the time now. So there's like a gamut of things that you're going to get if you win top 3 for the age groups of the RX division. So it's like this is stuff people are buying anyways.
Mhm.
So just
Here's an
participate.
early Christmas gift.
Yeah, yeah.
Santa came early, and his name is Jared Graybeal. The
That's great.
the
Thank you.
the programming. So I wanna talk a couple of things about it. So, Kiefer Lammy, who programs for Underdogs, did the 2 of you collab? Did he make them and then your eyeballs got on them? What was the relationship? And then I wanna transition talking about the names of the workouts because I think it's so clever with, like, being in Vegas.
Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy it.
I do.
Yeah, so basically the way that it worked is like when I decided, because last year I partnered with like we partnered with Mayhem, we partnered with Underdogs to program 2 of the workouts, and then I did like a repeat of an open workout. Um, this year I didn't want to do like the collective programmer thing, and I didn't want to choose like one. I work for Underdogs Athletics, and I didn't
Mhm.
want it to seem like there's an existing bias there. So kind of like I pulled Kiefer and said, Kiefer, would you want to program this with me? Of course, he was excited to do it. Kiefer's an incredible programmer, really, really smart guy. And so basically, the way that it worked was I created a framework. Like I want 4 tests, and I want these like time domains, and I want these few elements in the test. Whether it's like I want like we see the Echo Bike in workout 1, the barbells in workout 2. So I had like these elements that I preferred, these time domains, and I wanted a well-rounded like monostructural weightlifting gymnastic style test.
Mhm.
And I gave that framework to him, and then he delivered on the framework, and then we curated, or we made some iterations to it, and then we got feedback from Brian Friend, who's going to be a live analyst, and
Sure.
from Andrew Hiller, who's going to be the head
Oh,
judge of
yeah.
both
We'll
the
talk
online.
about that soon.
Um, and so we got feedback, and it's really great because I'm very lucky to know everyone that I know. Like Kiefer's an incredible programmer. Brian is an incredible analyst, and he's got incredible constructive criticism about everything CrossFit related, especially
Yeah.
programming. And then Hiller, as you know, is probably one of the best critiques of online programming that there is, just short of like getting Chase and Bill involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's a
so,
great example.
so I was lucky to get feedback from them, and we made some changes. And like we had our another call today around workout 3, just to like we want to get this right for many reasons, but for the most important reason, to create a balanced test and to get create a good event for the CrossFit community.
So, by the time this comes out, we may have all of the work. When are all the workouts gonna be released? Let me start
Every
there.
Friday, so like next Friday will
Every
be
Friday.
I think next Friday we'll announce workout 3 or 4. I don't think those probably doesn't matter too much. And then the following Friday, so each Friday.
Okay, so a couple more workouts will be released by the time this is aired, but can you tell us the names of all of the workouts? Because
Yeah.
you used a little bit of Vegas flair, and I'm here for it.
I know, it was really exciting because like, we don't like at Underdogs. I say we. I'm not really involved in the programming at Underdogs, but we don't name workouts like a lot of other programmers and camps name workouts. I personally like it. Some people don't. And so for this though, it was like, all right, we do have this live event in Vegas. I want to like, Zelos has its existing branding, which I love, but we already have like the kind of colors red and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's kind of Vegas-ish, Vegas-y. Let's name the workouts like Vegas themed. And then we're pretty specific, at least I was, like, about how we named the workout. So the first one is named Snake Eyes. And, it's like it if you have you ever seen Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yes. This
So,
is
like,
Halloween. This is
yeah,
Halloween. I love
I
that.
like, my dad, we watched he was a big Tim Burton fan,
So
Beetlejuice,
good.
all the stuff, and
Yeah.
so
Oh my god. We could go on and on talking about that.
I just I wanna try to incorporate I wanted to do it in the announcement, I actually forgot all about it, but do you remember, like, the bad guy kinda with all the worms
The
underneath his
clown.
yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, and then they pulled the string and then all of his bugs came out of
exactly.
him. I love
Do you
that,
remember, like,
yeah.
early in the movie, he rolls the dice and he's like, "Snake eyes?" So I just
Yeah.
think about that all the time. So I don't know, that's funny to
Snake
me.
eyes?
Exactly, so but the first workout has ring muscle ups, and I just think the rings, snake eyes, like, that's how we associated that workout.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's the score is max, reps of ring muscle ups, and so that's snake eyes. And then the second one is royal flush, and, it's so corny, like, I have a dog, I'm not, like, literally a dad, but I'm just full of dad jokes apparently, and so, like, I think when you're done with this workout, you're gonna royally be flushed, you know what I mean? Like, because it's like a barbell
I
spread, you'll have Fran Mom, you're gonna royally be flushed.
Yeah.
I just picture myself after the workout being like, "You look pretty flushed." So so that's how we chose the second one.
Honestly, that makes it fun. I like that. It's a nice
And then
little
I think
touch.
once, the 3rd and 4th names are out, I think they're on competition corner. The 3rd one is named, uh, Ace of Spades, and the 4th one is named Full House. And so when they come out, I believe
Ooh,
that they will make sense as well. I think
okay.
you can probably even speculate on what at least the 4th one, like what style of workout it's gonna be because it has the
Mhm.
name Full House. Um, and you could try to speculate on Ace of Spades. It's a little bit more vague and nuanced, but I think Full House kind of gives an idea of what style workout that one's going to be.
I like it. I'm excited to see if people start to speculate and what they come up with too.
I know. I just like where's Jr. Like when is he gonna start guessing these
Right,
work?
yeah. He's spot on. He knows something.
Yeah,
I
I don't.
love that you have this kind of full team, and I feel like you're somebody who is invested in the sport, especially with all of the different hats that you wear in the sport, and it's almost like you're using the Zelos games to take almost the things that you see, I don't wanna necessarily say, like, the things that are wrong about other competitions or
That could
wrong
be
about the
better.
season,
That
but
could be
right,
better.
like, ways to improve it. It seems like you're taking those ideas and you're seeing if that in fact works. Like, for instance, you just, had a post about the, standards and then also the penalties. This is a conversation that I know that I've had on podcasts before, like, how can we professionalize the sport? Well, if athletes knew like what the penalties were ahead of time, they can make a calculated decision and they know in advance instead of having event organizers with the judges and people saying that something doesn't count and nobody knowing well what does count and what is the penalty. So I'm curious, like, when implementing these things, do you know that they're going to play out well, or would you say that it's kind of a risk for you?
I mean, the whole thing is a risk for me, Lauren. I err on the side of being a risk taker. It doesn't always pay off, and it may not pay off this time either. I mean, like,
And
God
you live
willing
in
that it
Vegas
does.
and you're a risk taker?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a
Oh,
gambler though,
man.
luckily. So,
Okay.
I'm a
We'll be
practice.
clear.
I like to be and have some locus of control of my risks, right? So in the entrepreneurial world, I have enough experience to like Zelos Games has a business plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't play blackjack for a bunch of money just because I have no like I don't know. Anyway, so um, we are introducing some new things, and let me just be candid. Like I'm relatively new to the CrossFit world, the CrossFit business world. Like I'm no O'Keefe, I'm certainly no Bosman, I know Castro. Um, so with that being said, there may be a reason why these things haven't been introduced and they're just not upfront about it. And so we'll
Mhm.
probably find out the hard way. Um, or or because this happens in big business all the time, there are things that just aren't being done that should be done because they're easy to do. Some smaller company comes along and does it right. So
Mhm.
maybe that's us. And these things, they're not radical. They're not meant to be like competitive or like in contrast with the CrossFit Games. We're trying to support the CrossFit Games
Mhm.
season, or the off season of CrossFit, competitors. And so really, it's like let us test these things and see if they work, and then we can be a case study for the larger season of CrossFit to introduce these things. I'm huge on communication and transparency. If we were talking about this earlier,
Uh-huh.
I overshare, I'm over transparent, and I talk too much. If you know me well enough, I probably send too many emails too. But um, that's how I want to run this competition. So if somebody gets a no rep online for the online division, which is the primary division, and they get 30-second penalty, like why? Why? But I would rather them know, like, oh, I got five, burpee no reps. It's 6 seconds a no rep. That's why I got 30. And that's
Mm.
just an example. You'd have to read the competition corner standards and stuff like that, because some of them do have deviations to them based on the severity of your no rep. Because,
Mm.
for example, a bar facing burpee, there's multiple things that you could do right and
Yeah.
multiple things you could do wrong. You could just not touch your chest. That might be 1 second or 2 seconds. You could not touch your chest, not touch your thighs. That's 4 seconds. Like, what are you doing? Touch the ground. Um, you could not touch your chest, not touch your thighs, and your toes hit the bar. Now we're at 6 seconds probably for your no rep. Like, that's just a non. You didn't even do anything there.
Right.
So, um, so there is, you know, some of them have deviations and like a spectrum there, but we're trying to be as transparent as possible up front about how we're going to do penalties. We've tried to communicate in very much detail each movement standard. Obviously, with Hiller involved, there's a little bit more. I don't want to say scrutiny, just more clarity is really the better word. And uh, despite him being on the inside, that doesn't mean like somebody else isn't going to come along and start tearing apart videos. Do you know what I mean? Like, um,
No one has the time and dedication that that man has from his garage.
he does. In
Or
the
maybe
back.
we will find out that somebody else now is, like,
Well, hey, I mean,
from the
if you
ant
follow
farm.
if you follow comics long enough, you know that Batman at one point retires, and then there's always
Mhm.
another superhero to come out. But
So is that the goal here, is you hired Hiller to make him retire and so he won't send the bats to your competition?
paying him off. No, for what it's worth, Batman can't be paid off if you follow
Yeah.
comics. But um, no, the idea was like threefold with Andrew. Like,
Mhm.
one, um, he's clearly potentially the best online video reviewer in the CrossFit space, um, at least publicly.
Mhm.
And so I wanted that guy on my team because I have a ton of online videos I have to review, and I want to do it right. Two, um, it does benefit the Zelos Games to have him working with me instead of against me. Because if I didn't bring him on board, I still have to review all these videos. I have to get help. And chances are I may miss something. He does a really good job at pointing out when people miss stuff. You know what I mean? So, like, I'd rather not miss it by having his help. So it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily about like Andrew, like, how do I get him to not beat up the Zelos Games online competition? It's like, well, he's going to review these videos regardless because that's what he does. So if he's going to review them, why don't I just ask him to help me review them so we can set the example like he's been trying to do for online competitions? And so when I expressed that to him, he's like, that makes perfect sense. But I was like, well, here's the kicker. We have a live event, and the CrossFit community, many say that we'd love for you to put your money where your mouth is. And he was all for it. Like, I was like, there's a live event. I'd love for you to be the head judge there. I know that
So
you've
he's
never.
in person and helping with the online review.
Right.
Got it, cool.
Of course, I got some kickback by like legitimate CrossFit Games judges. Not a lot. One or two people messaged me, not like hate mail, but like, "Hey, this guy's never judged a
Giving their
real
2
event."
cents. Mhm.
And I said, "Well, I've never hosted a real event, but nobody's mad at me for trying." You know what I mean? So, we got to try new things. Granted, it's 12 men, 12 women. It's very small. It's not the CrossFit Games. If you know me, I'm a preparer. So like we have weekly calls with our judges. We are diligently preparing them for each movement. So we're trying to set the example both live and online. Not that it's done wrong. We just think there could be few things that could be done better. Right. So this isn't like I'm a huge fan of the CrossFit game. So that's why I'm in this business. And so one more thing that we're introducing is a challenge. So there's been talks
Mhm.
about the challenge to live events. And recently you did a podcast with Justin LaFranco and Dex Hopkins, I believe, about who's in charge, right? Is the judge, the athlete in
Yeah.
charge? For our event, the judge is responsible for counting the reps. And In short, I think the judge should be responsible for counting the reps.
If
And
everybody was wondering what Jared thought.
so, um, and like I'm not someone that's trying to be controversial. I just
Mhm,
when I think it's important, I'll share my opinion. And so my opinion on this matter is the judge
absolutely.
should be responsible because, like Dex's sentiment, like you can express your fitness to the fullest extent, or you can count sometimes. It's hard to do both. And so, like, I'm a good counter, but I'm also not that fit. So it's like, uh, so anyways, with that being said, we're introducing the challenge, and the way the challenge is going to work, the athlete's going to get one challenge per day. There's 2 workouts per day, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And so the way that this works is that if a judge no reps John Doe on his second round of ring muscle ups, he gets 2 ring muscle up, no reps. He just keeps going, and then afterwards, before you leave the field of play, you have to say, I'm challenging my score on this workout. He no rep me on 2 of my no reps in the second uh, interval. So we'll have a camera on the field of play, and we'll go back and review
Mm,
that camera right after the event and say, you are right. You get these 2 credits back, or it could work against you, just like in professional sports. So, like, nope, you actually had 3 no reps. So you're going to have, you know what I mean? So it could work for you or against you. Um, and we have a small case study. So again, like the live Zelos Games event is not necessarily something that if we all these things work perfectly for us, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll work perfectly for the CrossFit Games or for a Wadapalooza or for a Madrid. You know what I mean? Like because there's just so many more things that happen in those competitions, but it's a small case study that could be built upon, and I think that's our goal.
yeah, and I'm so curious, Jared, like, after this all plays out to come back and talk to you, whether it's, like, on camera or, like, we just jump on a quick phone call, because I think the things you're implementing are what spectators, fans, analysts, people in the space want to see, but at this point, I don't know if it's like a risk reward and people just aren't willing to take these risks that you are, or if it is truly because like some of these events just are too big and it isn't realistic for them. But I am really curious to see how some of these things play out. And regardless of how they play out, I do applaud you for taking the risk and trying to move the sport in a direction that gives athletes more clarity, gives
Thank you.
a ways to professionalize, or I think as Brian has been saying, to legitimize the sport.
Yeah.
Is the Zalos great blah, blah, blah. Okay, start over. Is the Zalos Games a, CrossFit licensed event? I don't remember.
It is a CrossFit license event.
What were some of those, like, conversations that you had with your team when, deciding? Because honestly, I don't know, and I'm curious, like, what are some of the package deals, or how does CrossFit, like, what is the benefit to having CrossFit in the name? Besides, of
Um,
course, like, branding.
yeah, so when it comes to financial, because this is self-funded, the team's not really involved in that decision per se. I'm sure, like, if I was like, "Hey, should we do this?" and they're like, "We don't have to pay anything personally," then they would support
Yeah.
it too. So the deciding factor behind that was like, I want to be able to leverage, we'll call it a CrossFit competition.
Mhm.
Um, Use the word CrossFit in the competition. Leverage the branding if and when that's necessary. And I don't know the cost because I have had conversations about this. I don't know what it costs to be a sanctioned event. I honestly don't know
Mm.
the difference between a sanctioned event and a licensed event. And I don't know if it's like private information, so I won't share how much it costs. But it didn't cost a whole lot. Like if I can personally fund the ability to be a CrossFit licensed event, that
Sure.
should say that it's not an arm and a leg, because I've heard it's 10 to 50 grand to be a sanctioned event. It's not 10 to 50 grand to be a CrossFit licensed event. And I don't know if I got a
Okay.
deal because I have a smaller event or what, but um, so the ROI seemed there for me to not have the CrossFit legal team chase me down if I accidentally use the word CrossFit in some of our
Ah,
branding.
got it.
And I can get a Zelos shirt with CrossFit on it now, and which I haven't done, and maybe I should do. But anyways, so just having that accessibility is comforting. Um, when you're running a business, the legal side is like you want to avoid legal constraints at all possible scenarios. So
For sure. Jared, I'm so excited. This is gonna be a party.
yeah, no, I mean it really is. If you're watching this, get a ticket. We have limited space to the event. There's an after party at the Marquee Sunday night for you guys that enjoy after parties.
Oh,
Ladies are gonna drink
yeah.
for free. Free
Oh,
entry for anybody with a wristband. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good event. Uh, The event's going to be incredible. We have food trucks coming out. We have vendor activation. Like Podium's going to be doing some fun stuff the first day. Paper Street Coffee Company is going to be there slinging coffee. The next day, RX Smart Gear is going to be leading the fun event and doing like a great like double under jump rope um, instruction, which is really really good. It's like I say instruction, that sounds boring, but it's not. Um, we have awesome vendors, LSKD, Grip Tight Tape, Paper Street Coffee Company. Like it's going to be a live. Bella's DJing. Brian's live analyst. There will be Bella's not DJing; she's emceeing.
I
Jason is
I was
like,
thinking, I was like, I mean, I'm sure she'd be a really good DJ too.
I wouldn't surprise me. So it's going to be a sick event. It's $50 for both days. You get a free coffee, you get a free sample from Podium, you get a free thing of thumb tape, you get to do a spectator workout. We're allowing
Cool.
16 people to do workout number 2 live with a judge and like film yourself and submit your score. So it's going to be a really fun event.
Oh
Definitely come
man,
if you can.
can I volunteer and make Andrew judge me?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, I'll message
Yeah, I can
him.
line that up.
I'll be like, "Do you wanna no rep me for fun?" "Yes, send in all
Yeah.
the bats."
Thought you'd never ask.
Yeah, right, right. That's exactly what I'll say. Cool. Oh my gosh, Jared, I'm so excited. We have all of the information on our website if people still wanna sign up, if they wanna register, they'll be able to do that. Otherwise, I'll see you in Vegas.